I want to go from that to Corey Kiner, who announced his commitment to LSU. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because Camar Wheaton is expected to be down to OU, LSU, and SMU. And that, I don't know that removes LSU from the group, because, I think there's 2 spots there too. But yeah, you got to feel like if you're DeMarco Murray, that's okay. That's one more down that I don't have to worry about.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like this has been more of a OU SMU battle at this stage, from what I can gather. I mean, LSU is always going to have their say in things, but at the same time, LSU has been involved with a number of different other running backs on the trail. So them getting one of their guys, to me, indicates that maybe Camar Wheaton's exploring the options of the other 2 that we're mentioning. And I know SMU has been pushing hard. The Preston Stone effect is very real right now. And if they're able to pull off the recruiting class that coaching staff is hoping to get, wow. I mean, and then we're talking about SMU being one of the main powers in the state of Texas, even though recently they've been probably one of the more cool highlight names to mention. I think right now, though, for me, Camar Wheaton and OU is just a bigger deal. I mean, look, if Oklahoma is going to go all in on this guy, as I expect them to moving forward, you'd be hard-pressed not to convince me that he wouldn't end up in an OU uniform. So I think at the end of the day, this is a good sign for Sooner fans. I think Camar Wheaton has obviously been RB1 on that board for a little while, outside of Trayvon Henderson, of course. And once things kind of sorted out the way that they did, I mean, Camar Wheaton has just become a major priority. And so this helps the Oklahoma Sooners in that race. And I think moving forward, it's going to be an SMU-OU brawl for his commitment.
Yeah, and I'd really like to see some tremendous momentum in the form of, inked or not inked, as close to inked as we can get with the promise of being public of commitments for Oklahoma. But I'm also, it's a difficult thing to talk around, even as I'm going, you need to start showing, because Tennessee's got 21 in the boat, right? And they picked up 11 in the past, I want to say 2 weeks, and then 3 in the past 24 hours, including top dual threat kid out of the 2021 class in Caden Salter at quarterback. That said, it's not a whole bunch of blue chippers in there. You usually need about 20 to be considered a top 2, top 3 class. But Oklahoma's still sitting on 5? Cullen Montgomery.
5.
Yeah, 5. Okay, cool. I was going to count them out. So as much as I know that Riley gets to do what Riley needs to do, and I'm thinking I'm going to write a piece around this about the reasons to be optimistic about this, because he's closed strong without a defensive coordinator before. He usually gets the guys that he wants to get, a la Mike Stoops. But still, because it's so weird, and because we're seeing commitments without visits, it's hard to call. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's anyone that wants to say you have absolutely no idea how this thing could go on the recruiting trail in terms of commitments for Oklahoma. It's fair to say, because we've never dealt with circumstances like this before. You know what I'm saying? I mean, at this point, we have no idea what Lincoln Riley's course of action is, even if he's perceived as the favorite for Camar Wheaton. Because you can't get the kid on campus. You can't get this guy in the running back room. You can't have him meeting DeMarco Murray face-to-face. This is still kind of the square one, even though he's sorting out his side of things a little bit more forward. So, look, I think you bring up a great point. The recruiting world is a different time right now, because no matter how many top lists these guys release or how much we think the end is coming, it's really on these kids, because part of the recruiting world is these programs and coaches convincing them to commit. Well, you can only do that so much when you're FaceTiming. You know what I'm saying? You don't have the glitz and glam of the on-campus experience. So that's what's fascinating to me is the lack of commitments we continue to talk about, in my opinion, is just because at the end of the day, this recruiting situation is calling for the prospects to finally make that decision. And it's really those guys finally making the decision without a lot of those experiences or talks with the coaches and programs that come with it. So at that reason, I would say you just never know. And that's why, in my opinion, I'm still going to have SMU as a strong contender for Camar Wheaton. And I'm still going to say, look, you may not see some strong public commitments for Oklahoma for a while, but that's just how it is at this stage until football returns.
Well, and getting to that, right, Mark Emmert gave his thoughts about football returning and what it would need to look like. But the thing that I think I need to make clear to most people is, like, the NCAA does not have a whole hell of a lot to say about who plays and doesn't play FBS football. It's really about the conference commissioners and their athletic directors. And the idea that you might see abbreviated seasons, say on the West Coast, like California, Oregon, where governors are much more staunch in their belief that we can't have any sort of groups together, or places in the Southeast or even Oklahoma where you're much more likely to see, hey, we're gonna play our season, right? And if you don't want to play your season, we can't make you, but we're gonna play our season. Meaning, what if you get 12 games out of Oklahoma and just 9 out of Oregon, right? I think that changes the recruiting trail because you've had more opportunities for A1 visits and B to be seen. You know, like one of the reasons that SMU is in this thing with Camar Wheaton is because TV, right? Lots of their games were on TV last year, and when they had opportunities, they showed out. I mean, hell, the Memphis SMU game got flexed into the Saturday night 7:00 game. Now, it was a weekend, but still. And it turned out to be a very good football game, like an outstandingly good football game. And I wonder, you know, like if you're in the American where Mike Oresco has been like, I don't know what we're going to do. If SMU can't play its entire non-conference schedule, how does that fit? And if OU can, and, you know, watching Zach Evans go against Southern Methodist in a non-con in, you know, Gerald Ford Stadium might do something for Camar Wheaton. On the other hand, watching Tennessee come up to Owen Field to play Oklahoma and see what Kennedy Brooks can do might do something for him. So I'm fascinated on that front because I think we're going to get football. Now, for me, it's a question of where.
And it would create a massive competitive imbalance, if you will. And it's exactly what you're touching on. At the end of the day, it's how much can you showcase your product, either on television or in person to these kids. And if Oklahoma gets a 12-game slate, I mean, no one in the entire OU fan base should be worrying a drop. Because if Lincoln Riley gets to have those kids on campus 12 opportunities, he gets to be on television 12 times or whatever, then he's going to be able to pull off some eyes. That being said, that's where the other factors come in. Does SMU have similar opportunities? Do maybe like a USC or some of the West Coast powers that Oklahoma battles on the recruiting trail see some limited chances? That's when you really should see, in my opinion, Oklahoma, Alabama, some of these teams who are waiting to explode really start to take off. And it's also, again, like I mentioned in the last podcast, where you could probably see some of these bigger classes for schools you maybe didn't expect taper off. I mean, if Tennessee and North Carolina got to go play a whole 12-game slate, I'm sorry, but I'm expecting some slip-ups. I don't know that I can really believe those guys are going to have as strong of a season as their recruiting class might indicate. So at the end of the day, that's something that I don't think we're talking enough about, and I'm glad you brought it up, because what could happen in terms of limiting schedules and opportunities for some of these teams also would very much impact the world of recruiting for each program.